back in recordings in progress. Since we got started in early January, we picked up 9 additional new members, which we're really proud of for not even being able to promote ourselves. So, we got a
That's good.
strong
Yeah.
feeling once we're able to promote ourselves and spend some money advertising, this thing is going to take off like a rocket ship because me and Pedro got some real special things planned. And, a lot of you guys were with us from the very beginning, Keith, Joe, back when we started with Winner's Circle in 2015, and then we transitioned to Diamond Racing, and now this is the third iteration of our fractional group uh, with Go for Glory. So for those that don't know me, I'm Charlie Long. I'm the general manager for Go for Glory Stable. And I'd like to introduce, for those that don't know, Pedro. Pedro Baez is our president and founder. Pedro, you want to say hello?
Well, I know some of you don't know me. I do know some of you though. So there's a lot of familiar faces. So yeah, so I'm Pedro Baez. Uh, Bob Glazer is jumping on right now, and he's kind of one of the founding members, you can say, of Go for Glory stable. He owns pretty much just as much as I do, to be honest, almost on every single horse. And yeah, we merged with Charlie in January, as of January 1st, with Diamond Racing Stable. So far, so good. Charlie's the charismatic one, and more talker. I'm more in the behind the scenes, getting this website going. You know, we got a lot of big things planned. What we want to do from a technology perspective, from an experience perspective. We want the end goal is we want it to be where it's self-sufficient, self-service, where you can just go in there, you can go on a website. Paul has a nice horse, you can buy into that nice horse. Another trainer has a nice horse, you can buy into that horse and kind of experience have a kind of like a an experience that you can kind of own and manage on your own. So we got a ways to go, but so far so good. And the key though is to have good horses, good trainers like Paul, and hopefully we have a good year. We had a great year last year. Hopefully we can keep things rolling this year.
Yeah. And most of you probably don't know, but I want to say maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, Pedro was actually one of our investors, and he was with us for a bit, and then he kind of branched off and started doing his own thing. And back then, I just had this sense that if someone was going to start a fractional ownership group one day and compete with me, Winter Circle Racing back then, I just knew it was going to be Pedro. I just had that sixth sense because Pedro was really passionate about the game. He would spend a lot of time on social media, promoting the game and what he was doing and all, and trying to get people involved in ownership. So it's almost like destiny. I think that we were kind of brought together, and we got our sights set on doing some damage to the two groups ahead of us down the road. But anyway, there's a third member of our team who I don't believe is on. Maybe he is. Bob Fidanza, are you on? Bobby, you
Yeah,
there?
I am, but I've been on. Yeah, I've been on mute because I'm driving. I didn't want the road noise. So yeah,
Okay,
I'm
no,
here.
no problem, Bob. I just wanted to introduce you because Bob is the third member of our team, and Bob's been a big help with my two previous groups, doing a great job putting out our entries and our race recaps, and we appreciate his efforts. And you're going to see a lot more Bob working with us down the road, especially since he's retired now and he has more time to devote to harness racing. So. So now I think it's time. I want to introduce our guest trainer, Paul Kelley. I had the good fortune of meeting him in person for the first time last week. Only had a couple of hours to spend down there, unfortunately. I wish it could have been more because I had other people and they wanted to go to the beach and do other things. But Paul, since we left that day, my friends and my family, they couldn't stop talking about the experience, how amazing it was. You guys were great. Um, they were telling all our friends and family that they met the Babe Ruth of harness racing, Wally Hennessy, who had like the most wins, most driving wins in harness racing, which is not quite the truth, but pretty darn close to it. And
Well,
yeah,
he's almost as old as Babe Ruth, so they got that part right.
yeah, yeah, sure. But anyway, for those that don't know Paul, I had mentioned to Paul, we were jogging a couple of horses together, and I said, Paul, wow, I pulled your USTA stats, and I'm not sure how far they go back, but Paul goes back to '92. I'm not sure if that was the first year they started keeping stats.
That's the first year that the USTA started keeping like records like that. At least on the internet or whatnot. I think that
Right.
before that, everything was like on microfiche. So
Okay.
I think you can go back further if you really want to, but there's no need for that. Yeah.
Right, right. But just to
Yeah.
give you a sense of Paul's success over the years, since '92, he's had 4,237 starts, 875 wins, 667 second place finishes, 544 third place finishes, over 13 million in purse money, with a 336.336 universal trainer rating, which is pretty darn good. That's impressive. And his earnings per start are $3,129. So I think that's why Paul is training our horses, because we know when we go out there, we have a good shot at getting $3,000 per race, and those are darn good numbers. So really, really good stuff. So Paul, we want to get into. I want to ask you a few questions first,
Sure.
and then we'll open it up to the group and actually talk about our horses in between. So Paul, can you just tell our members a little bit about yourself as far as how you got started in the industry?
Sure. you know, early on, as a kid, there my dad and mom had we had a bunch of ponies, Shetland ponies, and back in the '60s, uh, there was quite a big there was a fair circuit all through New England, even extending through New York out to Ohio, Indiana, where people were also racing ponies at various fairs. And that's kind of how we got started with the ponies. And so we had done that for a number of years. In the later '60s, my father kind of gravitated to standardbreds at Foxborough Raceway, and my father was a hockey coach. He wasn't a horse trainer by any means, but he just loved the game like you guys and myself. And so that's kind of how it went, and that's how I got exposed to it. I didn't I didn't really just jump right into it. High school, college. Yeah, I spent a lot of time just playing sports and pursuing other things. But I was always around horses. And after spending a couple of years out after college, I did work in the athletic department at Boston University for a couple of years, and I really enjoyed it. I was around some great people. Rick Pitino had just come in at that time, so I got to know him, get to see him kind of start out. And I was always close to the hockey program there. So it was a fun 2 or 3 years for me. But I guess somewhere along the way, I got to missing the horses. So right around 1980, I decided that I was just going to give it a shot and go from there. And I started out with a couple of smaller stables, and I was in Maine for a while, Connecticut for a while, and eventually ended up in New York and all up and down the East Coast. Working for a buddy of mine, and then I started out on my own and went to Saratoga about 1985 or '86, somewhere in there.
Okay,
Mhm.
good stuff. Is there any particular trainer that you worked with that you can that pretty much taught you everything you needed to know and got you
I
on
don't know
the
that.
path?
Yeah, I don't know that anybody ever taught me everything I needed to know, because you're always still learning. And
Mhm,
I've kind of like really expanded my scope over the years to pay attention to a lot of different guys.
mhm.
Early on, I was working for a guy up in Maine. He's passed on now, but we had Walter Case Jr. was in that same stable. He was driving all the horses back then. So I had a real close association with Casey at that time. Then I moved on to New York. I hooked up with a buddy of mine named Leo Bauer, who was uh, pretty starting to make a name for himself at Foxborough, and he was looking to branch out. Leo and I ended up going to Pompano. we ended up, long story short, we ended up becoming the B stable for Teddy Wing at Roosevelt Yonkers. Teddy was primarily at the Meadowlands, and we took the horses that were, better suited for Roosevelt and Yonkers, and we managed and raced those horses. And I did that for, I guess, 3 or 4 years, and then, made my way up to Saratoga. Just figured it was time for me to, start on my own, and that's where I went.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I imagine, through the years, you've had a lot of highlights and a lot of success stories. You want to maybe share one or two with us, maybe some special horses or some big
Yeah.
wins that you're most proud of?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, you guys know this game's it's a roller coaster game. It's up and down, and there's many nights where I've been on the road and you're driving home and you're pretty frustrated. What could I have done differently, or how things could have gone maybe better. And but when you do go out and win those sire stake races or bigger type events, that's what really pumps your blood, and that's what really brings you back all the time. So I was fortunate enough to just kind of keep building my stable to the point where I got away from racing claimant horses and condition type horses, say at Saratoga, to get
Right.
starting in on yearlings and getting just chasing a different part of the game with the babies and getting into staked races. So winning those types of races is a big thrill. I guess like probably the first really good horse I had was this was like around 2001 or so. I had been When I started buying yearlings around 1996, I was buying primarily trotters. I really wasn't doing any excuse me, I was doing primarily pacers. I wasn't really doing any trotters at all. And I had some success, but I just nothing ever really clicked that big. Buddy of mine told me to why don't you just buy a couple trotters and give that a go. And I did, and I think as much as anything else, it was probably just kind of like dumb luck. But started off with a trotting filly right around 2001 named Sunday Yankee. She went on to make about, I think, close to 400,000, and it just kind of like snowballed from there. Each year, I'd buy, maybe instead of buying one trotting filly or one trotting colt, I'd buy two, and then I'd buy three, and I started to have some success. There was some failure too, and not every horse was a success, but we had enough good ones that started to attract a little bit more attention and started getting some clients at that point that were more serious about trotters, and they saw what I was doing and liked what I was doing, so they gave me more opportunities to go to the sale and keep buying trotters. So that's really how I started, going down that path with the trotters. I'm not opposed to buying pacers by any means, but most of my clients have always preferred trotters. So, and I've had most of my success there. So that's that's kind of where I guess I've stuck to that avenue, and it's worked out pretty well. As far as the horses go, yeah, Sunday Yankee was one of my early good ones. I had a mare sent to me. She was a muscle Yankee mare that was just turned 4 that Bill Donovan owned. That her name was Abby Craig, and she'd kind of had a bumpy 2 and 3-year-old year. Just some tough luck, and we got lucky. We got her at the right time, and she won about 15 out of 17 for us as a fold. And she was a really nice mare. After that, I bought a yearling filly at Harrisburg for a second crop of credit winner. Filly's name was Quick Credit, and for the most part, she was probably the best 2-year-old trotting filly in the country back then. That would have been about 2005. She got beat by a nose in the Goldsmith Maid up at Woodbine on a terrible rainy night. Campbell was driving her, and she got beat right on the last step by Passionate Glide by one of Tactor's top mares.
Mhm.
And so that she ended up beating us out for 2-year-old Trot and Filly of the Year. But she was a really nice filly. She made over a $500,000. Nice filly. Obviously, Obrigado would be the best horse that I've had. He wasn't a horse that I bought as a yearling. I bought him as a 3-year-old coming 4. It was really, there was a lot of luck in all of that. I was good friends with the owner from Maine. He was the breeder, the owner. He always sells, all of his Maine bred horses at the end of the 3-year-old year because the stake money up there is good, but after that, the overnight races aren't so good. And he knew that at that time I was racing at Saratoga a lot in Yonkers, and he just thought that horse might be okay for down there. And I'm sure he's passed on now, but Mike Andrew, but I'm sure he's pretty much kicking himself to this day that he didn't hang on to that horse and just let me train it for him. But he sold it, and he was like a $52,000 buy, and he made 1.9 million. That was, and he won everything. 2016, he went everywhere, all over the country, and he beat the best. So if you're asking me, for a racing highlight, I would have to say it was the last race of the year 2016 when Obrigado won the TVG Trot at the Meadowlands. And he beat the best horses. Crazy Wow was in that race. We photoed out Crazy Wow at the wire by, probably won by a nose or something. It was so close that when I was watching in the paddock, I thought I finished second.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to go to the winner's circle until it was official. And I looked to my left, and Yannick had just come in the paddock with Crazy Wow. And Yannick looked at me and he said, "Go get your picture taken. You won the race." And I said, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "I know you won." And
Wow.
yeah, so that was a big event. Yeah, he was just a fantastic horse.
Was Mark McDonald driving him for the last
Yeah,
race?
Mark was driving him. So he drove him all of that year. So he was 6 that year. Mark started driving him as a 5-year-old. As a 4-year-old, there was a few different guys that drove him. But he really wasn't on the Grand Circuit as a 4-year-old. It wasn't until he was 5 that I started racing him on the Grand Circuit. And yeah, I kept Mark on him, and Mark obviously wanted to be on him all the time. So yeah, that was a magical couple of years for sure.
Yeah, he was a special horse.
Yep.
My next question, I guess you kind of answered it already, and do you prefer working with trotters over pacers, and why?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. I mean, I think, if you look at the big picture, and you look at like where the top pacers are coming from and this and that, they can almost come from anywhere in any barn, right? And
Yeah.
I think the trotters are a little bit, there's a little more horsemanship involved with the trotters. There's probably a little more patience at times involved with the trotters. It's more of a challenge, I think, as a trainer. So, I like the challenge. I love sitting behind them. Their gait is just different than the pacing gate. You know what I mean? And there's you have to drive them a little bit differently too, because they're easy. They can make breaks. They can kind of roll over on you out there on the racetrack, and go into a gallop or a run. Pacers always they've got the security of pacing hobbles. And
Right.
yeah, we do use trotting hobbles on some horses, but I think just from a very fundamental point of view or standpoint, for me the trotters are just they're a little more challenging, but a lot more fun. And I think there's a bigger reward on the other end with trotters, because the trotting game is a global market, and if you've got the right horse, there's more people to sell to in the trotting game. Pacers are North American, down under.
Right.
There's no pacing market in France or Scandinavia, those countries. And so I don't know. I mean, it's just, and again, like I said, I started collecting more clients that were interested in trotters and pacers. So it made it easy for me to kind of go that route. So anyway, who do we got here from Chatham? I'm just seeing the sign in the background. Just so you know, I was born not far away, right over on Martha's Vineyard.
Well, let me just jump right in here.
Okay.
And
Zoom
if you
call
don't
with
mind
our
me,
first trainer.
if you don't mind me taking a quick
Sure.
second, my name is Billy Campbell, and I'm honored to be on today. Charlie and Pedro invited me into their family. I do have another horse or a couple of horses with another company, but I am ecstatic to be joining this family. And Paul, I did talk to you.
We spoke. I missed you at the Meadowlands, right? When
You
Moneyman
missed
raced.
me. You
Gotcha.
missed me at the Meadowlands.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
But
Gotcha.
it was a pure coincidence that Pedro happened to be at the finish line when we watched Moneyman that night.
Right.
Come from nowhere to come up to second place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, I go back to Foxborough Raceway with you.
Yeah.
I got back into this because of COVID. And again, I'm from Yarmouth, but you see my Chatham Cape Cod sign behind me in my
Yeah.
little den. And I just want to thank all you, and I'm just honored to be part of this family. And I'm looking forward to big things.
Good.
And I'm enjoying this afternoon tremendously.
All right. Very good, Billy. All right.
Stuff.
And just
Next
one more
question.
quick thing. Just Paul, keep
Yep.
in mind that Nancy Longobardi is the one that tied us together also.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah, we go the Kelley family, the Longobardi family, the Bauer family go way back to the 60s at Foxborough when I'm talking about when I first got into the game or my father first got into the game. So yeah, that's another family in the Kelley history there that had played a big part in getting my dad more involved in the game and then ultimately me. So yep.
Mhm.
And in fact, the colors that I wear, the brown and gold colors that I wear are the colors that Nancy Longobardi's dad used to wear, Dominic Longobardi. Those were his colors. And then they got kind of passed down to Leo Bauer. I started working for Leo, and then I started wearing those colors as well. So that's where that goes. That's the history there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
So Paul, when I was down there, we were jogging together, and I had asked you about that quarter-mile straight track that
Yep.
you work your horses on, and I thought your response was interesting. I knew nothing about it. I'd never really seen it before, and I think our group would be interested in hearing the benefits of training our horses on that quarter-mile straight track.
Yep. So first off, it's the surface of that track is different from the two round tracks that we're on at Sunshine. It's more of a, I guess, kind of a sandy loam type of surface, the straight track, and it's a little bit deeper. It's a very, very friendly and forgiving type of surface for the horses. So we like that. That's a big benefit. It's, and being a straight track, when the horses work on it, they're using all of their muscle groups equally at the same time. They're not, just think of it, if they're going clockwise around the track, around a circle track, or counterclockwise, they have to redistribute their weight. They have to do a few different things body wise that they don't have to do when they're on a straight track. We're on a straight. You can think of it for yourself. If you were going to be running around in a circle all the time or going on a straight path, it's probably a little better for you if you're just going straight all the time. So there's that. Now, just to back it up a little bit, we really don't use the straight track so much with the 2-year-olds, because the 2-year-olds, they need to learn to trot around the turns. They need to learn to follow one another, learn to pass one another. They need to learn all the little fundamentals that they're gonna need to have when they get in a race. So we're constantly kind of like schooling them in that regard, and as far as training and all that goes. Once they get to be their 3-year-old year, and they've got all that knowledge behind them and experience, then I think it's much more beneficial to get them out on a straight track and work. And so we're doing that. And it's basically it's basically like wind sprints, like say in hockey, or I guess even in football, up and down the field. It's a little bit different training. It's a high cardiovascular type of work, and you combine that with working in deeper material. So you're not necessarily working trying to go like speed. That's a part of it, but it's not the big part. The big part is when you're working on a straight track, is that you're really building up muscle and strength, and they get a great cardiovascular workout, because they go a quarter of a mile, they turn around, they come right back another quarter of a mile. So it's almost like a half a mile of work right there. Then they take like about a 45-second to a minute break where they're walking around in a circle, catch their breath, boom, down and back again. And we do multiple intervals of that. All of my 3-year-olds and older horses, they're all really pretty close to qualifying right now. And none of them have trained fast on the mile track yet. Everything's been on the straight track. But I know that they're fit and they're ready. And so I think in about 2 weeks we'll have qualifiers here at Sunshine, and we'll get them all qualified. Somewhere in between all that, we'll kind of give them a little dress rehearsal, a dry run on the mile track, maybe train them a mile or whatever around 2:08 or something, just to make sure that because when we're on the straight track, they wear very little equipment, no overchecks. Let them get their heads down as low as they want. The lower they can get their heads, the longer the stride they're going to take, and the more they're going to use their shoulders and hind end doing all of that. So when we switch over to the mile track in preparation for qualifying, obviously they're going to have to go around turns and things like that. That's where head pulls and Murphy blinds come in. So we'll give them a little dry run, with on the mile track prior to qualifying. So we just make sure that their heads are set right, and if somebody needs a head pull on the inside or a Murphy blind, we kind of have a feel for that. But they all. The good thing is that they've all raced before, so they all kind of know the drill, and it's kind of an easy transition going from the straight track to the mile track. But like horses like Obrigado, Crazy About Pat, I mean these are some top horses that I've had, and others. Those horses never trained down here on the mile track. All their work was always done on the straight track, and that's. Right. And that is a lot of guys and that's a European thing. It's funny that it hasn't caught on more in the States. There's some training farms that have them, but for the most part, you don't see too many American-based trainers employing that kind of a training technique. It's far more popular over in Europe and like Scandinavia, France, wherever. Even down under the Australian guys, New Zealand guys are very familiar with it too. I don't know why it didn't catch on so much. I would say probably the biggest reason is you need more land for a straight track, because you're going in a straight direction. So, right. You can fit a half mile track in a smaller area than if you had a half mile straight track or a 3/4 mile straight track.
Yeah, no
over
doubt.
in over in Sweden and Europe, anywhere over there, those guys all train on straight tracks. You don't see anybody really training on round tracks.
Right, right. All right, next, I'm sure everybody's anxious to hear about the horses that they're invested in. So let's start with our 2-year-old Trot and Filly, Adios My Lindy. If you
Yep.
can tell us about Adios, how she's progressing, and what your expectations are for her.
Uh, my expectations are always very well reserved, but she's doing everything very well. Okay, so I don't want to get. It's okay to get excited. That's what we're all in it for. You know, just that at any point in time, things can go the other way. But this filly has just been so nice right from the get-go.
God damn you!
She's been in 228 to as of Friday, and she's just super good gated. Gets over the ground really easy. Seems to have the right kind of brains. Some of those Walners can get a little hot. Same with chapter 7s. They can get a little hot, a little excited.
Yep.
Not saying that it can't happen with her. Things change once they start going a little faster. The competitive juices, start coming out of them a little more. But seems like a filly that's pretty smart. Got her shit together pretty good, and yeah, she's a nice filly. I'm very, very happy with the way she's going.
Great. Sure, everyone will be
Yep.
glad to hear that. Next
Yep.
up, another 2-year-old Trot and Filly, Chirango.
Yep. So Chirango's, probably right now, Chirango, of the 5, she's probably she's sitting like 5th on the ladder, but she's very very willing, very tenacious little filly. She's on the small side. She was $12,000 yearling. A little bit of a flyer there. I raced her mother. Her mother had a great attitude. I also bought one of her mother's other foals. I've got a 3-year-old chapter 7 filly in the barn that I think is a pretty nice filly, and she's a half sister to Chirango. But Chirango's doing fine. She's been in like 235, so it's not like she's that far behind.
Okay.
But she's growing, and so you just kind of have to be a little patient, like with horses like that, and keep them happy. Don't over stress them, over push them. Let them kind of come on their own. But she might be small, but she doesn't know she's small. She's out there. She's willing and wanting to compete with anything on the racetrack. So she's doing okay, but she's got a little more ground to cover yet,
Got it. All right. Our 2-year-old Trot and Colt, the 2nd chapter. Tell us about him.
Yep. He's that Colt. He also trained in 228 with Adios My Lindy on Friday, and he's starting to turn the corner in a positive way. He's been nice all winter long. He's a little bit of a growthy colt, where Adios My Lindy, she kind of looks, a little more mature physically, like maybe, all of her body parts, everything is kind of coming together at the right time with her. With this guy, you could tell he's just a bigger, kind of growthier kind of animal, but he's really maturing, I think, over the winter, and he trained super on Friday, 228, right there with Adios My Lindy. So very happy with him, and I'll tell you something. When I started doing the staking for March, I did make Adios My Lindy. I kept her eligible to the Hambletonian Oaks. It's a crapshoot. Okay, right. It's we're trying to you're trying to play cards with cards you don't even know what you're holding right now, and but she's done everything right. So I said, you know what? She deserves to be kept eligible for the Oaks. I just did the same thing with uh, the second chapter. I wasn't really gonna. I was thinking that I wasn't gonna pay him into the Hambletonian because, it's such a long shot, this and that. But he trained so well, and I'm not saying that he's necessarily a Hambo horse for next year because nobody knows. But if I don't make that March payment right now for $500, then he wouldn't be eligible to the Hambletonian the 4-year-old division, the maturity, the Hambletonian maturity as a 4-year-old. You'd have to supplement him for a lot of money. So
Right.
just by making this March payment for him on that keeps him eligible to that as well, which also keeps his value up. If somewhere along the way somebody, that horse does a few things and he looks really good and somebody wants to come in and make an offer, the more that he's eligible to, the more he's going to be worth. So I thought for $500 it was worth keeping him in. But he's doing, yeah, so he's doing very well.
Excellent, excellent. Our other 2-year-old Trot and Colt, Geologic.
Yep, he's another one. So Adios My Lindy and Geologic, those two have dual eligibility with Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. So, you know, uh, uh, for sure, Massachusetts that's the target. Because the competition level is a little less over there. The money's good. Gives the horses a little more time to develop and be ready. But he trained in 228. Those three are right there together. He's just been a nice colt right along all winter long. If I had Wally here with me doing this with me, I don't think Wally would be able to tell you which one he liked the best either. The three of them are all doing very, very well. So
Good, good.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we should have extended an invitation to Wally, Pedro. I didn't even think of it. I don't know if he would have been
I don't know if
available.
I think he's probably gonna leave the messaging and all that stuff to me. He's glad to meet with anybody when you see him at the barn or this
Right.
or that.
He's so friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, he's super great guy. Listen, I can't tell you what a pleasure it is, and to have him in the barn. We've been friends for 35 plus years anyway, and he's driven a lot of horses for me over the years. But now to have him in the barn work with me through the winter, it's I get the benefit of his expertise too. So it's been a fun winter for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, I got 2 remaining next.
Yep.
For 3-year-olds, Money Man, Trot and
Money
Gilligan.
Man, yep, yeah, he's doing really well. I don't know if you guys, I sent a couple pictures out there, Pedro, and saw some pictures with Money Man on the straight track. He's doing really good. Now, I kept him eligible in the New Jersey Sire Stakes. I'm not sure if he's really that level. That's some pretty nice horses, some like not pretty nice, some really nice horses. He's close, but I'm not sure if he's quite to those horses or not. But he's super nice. He can do anything with him. He can leave the gate. You can take him back. You can drive him any way you want. Brett Beckwith loved him last year when he drove him, and we raced him fairly conservative. And Yannick liked him fine. The times he drove him at the Meadowlands, he just wasn't quite good enough to beat a couple of bigger, stronger colts, in those last couple of races. But great attitude, gets over the ground real nice. I think he's gonna be a lot of fun this year. For us to race, and especially when we get to Massachusetts. So
Right.
very, very happy with him.
Great. And
Yeah.
last but not
Wait,
least,
real quick, Charlie. He
Yep.
he came in and he came in third in the Massachusetts final. So he
Yeah.
was he was a nice little surprise, that horse.
Oh yeah,
For
yeah.
45,000. I mean, it wasn't a lot. I mean, for a Walner, but yeah, he worked out pretty nicely.
Yep.
great. And last but not least, going to Vegas.
Yep. So that filly's she's training back really well. last year, just to back it up a little bit for those that don't really know, bought her at the Goshen sale in the fall of 2023, and she's a June foal. I want to say maybe around June 7th or something like that. And June foals are, they're a little bit behind the eight ball sometimes because the other ones all have 2, 3, 4 months of growth on them. And she was on the small side, but she's got a really nice little pedigree to her, and that's kind of like the main attraction as to why I bought her. She's a trotting filly with a lot of upside on the breeding end, which will keep her residual value right up there very well at the end of this year. She's training really well. Last year, she had a few good races, and then she kind of struggled a little bit at the end. But in fairness to her, I think a lot of that was some growing issues that she was going through, and there's a couple of tracks that just didn't really suit her because the footing was very loose on a couple of nights. It just didn't suit her, for the way I had her kind of rigged up and shod and whatnot. But very, very physically strong filly, good attitude. So she's got, just so you know, the guys that might not know, in her immediate family, her mother is basically a 3/4 sister to the dam of Sig Sauer, who was the 3-year-old trotting colt of the year, 2024. Also, I think it's under a second dam. Under a second dam, there's the mare that's the dam of Back of the Neck, a nice horse that's Fonstead had. So she has 2 millionaires right there in her immediate family, 2 very accomplished horses in her immediate family that will bode well in the fall if we decide that we're going to flip her as for a broodmare. There's going to be a nice, for a $37,000 yearling, there'll be a nice little return on the other end. It should be. So
Right.
Yeah.
My last question for you, Paul, before we open it up to the group. Since I'm not familiar with the horses that raced last year and the drivers, who are our go-to drivers? For Saratoga, Plain Ridge, who do we plan on?
Well, that's I would be looking at guys like Wally and Brett Beckwith. Those 2 guys would certainly get first call.
We've got no problem with that at all.
Yeah, obviously, when the Massachusetts Sire Stakes start ramping up, if Yannick is also going to be available. Yannick's sometimes, all those drivers are sometimes a little tough to get. It depends who's got the better horses too, right? I lost Yannick on a couple horses last year to a couple that Lindy Farms had, and Lindy Farms has they're a big account, for a guy like Yannick. There's other possibilities, down in Lexington for horses for him to drive and this and that. So I get why he would make a decision like that sometimes, and that's fine. That's not a problem. But you're asking me who I'd use. Obviously Brett, he's a rising star. Wally's his accomplishments speak for themselves. Yannick, another one. Anywhere I go, I'm looking to get the best man, best man possible, and then sometimes it's just a matter of I just have an idea who fits a certain horse the best too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, sure. But I do try to keep my drivers to like 2 or 3 guys if I can. I don't like the merry-go-round where, especially with trotters, where over the course of 4 or 5 races you got 4 or 5 different drivers.
Right.
That doesn't tend to work so good with trotters. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Does anyone have any questions for Paul?
Wait, did you talk about Skybox yet?
No, I didn't mention Skybox.
Oh no, we skipped Skybox. My bad.
Yeah, Skybox. He's doing great. So he'll be ready to queue, just like the other ones. I'm looking at like probably March 29th and then April 5th. Those 2 days, I'll qualify all the 3-year-olds and up those 2 weeks in a row. So he's doing good. Skybox has got another one that aiming really for like basically Saratoga, Plain Ridge. Let him be a big fish in a smaller pond. Maybe a couple trips here or there to Yonkers. It's just a matter how the schedule works out and where I'm going. If let's just say if I'm going to Yonkers to race in a sire stake race or something, and there's a class for a horse like Skybox down there that fits what where he's at that time, then he could be on the truck too, going in that direction. But he took him over to Plain Ridge. I think how many times, Pedro? Just once, Pedro? He won over there.
Yeah, he won the one time I went there last
I
year.
think that's the only
he was
time
there. He won.
I think that's the only time I raced him there, if I remember. But he got around that track real good. He liked that, and the money's so good at Plain Ridge. That's he could generate a good cash flow for the stable, just racing like right at Plain Ridge all the time.
And he was a value one as well. I mean, we got him for 25,000 EL Titan.
Yeah.
What he come in third in the final last year in Excelsior, New York.
He's performed consistently well all the time. He's got a great attitude, and no, he's been a nice horse, and he's the kind of horse that could potentially just kind of keep getting better with age too. You know what I mean? One of those that he hasn't been hurt, he hasn't been over raced. I mean, protected him pretty good over the course of his 2 and 3-year-old year, and he's been sound right along. No major issues. No major vet work that's been necessary with him, and so he's got the chance to kind of step up a little bit and be a better horse at 4 and 5.
Great to hear. Okay. Anyone have any questions for Paul?
Yeah, I do. Real quick, Charlie. First of all, Paul, are you going to be how long are you going to be down in Delray this year? What time?
Probably till around the 10th or the 15th, somewhere in that range of April.
All right, good. All right, good, because I want to get down and see everyone. So now that I'm retired, I have more time. I can come down during the week or something, So, where are you going to be Where are you going to stable this year? Any play? Are you going to be back in Magical again, or are you going to go somewhere else?
No, my plan is to be, if not at Saratoga Harness, somewhere right in the immediate area of Saratoga.
Okay.
I've got a home up there, and that's the best place for me to be operating from.
I want to give props to somebody real quick here before I get off. If you ever get really jammed up and you need a driver, we got a Hall of Fame driver sitting right here with us in Charlie. All right. He's been in the Hall of Fame. All right. And he is the king of Canada. So if you ever have something going on up north, send him up there. All right. Because I think he'll do the job for you. All right.
Yeah. Just ship an amateur horse up there and I'll give it my best.
There you go. All right. I'll see you down there, Paul. All right.
All right, Joe. Good to see you.
Anyone else?
So I must say, I got 2 pictures with Charlie.
Who's that?
It's Matt. Sorry,
Matt.
I'm not on camera.
How you doing, Matt?
But I got 2 pictures with you.
You do? Oh, from Tioga?
From Tioga, yeah.
That's right. You're my good luck charm. You got to keep coming when I race.
Well, I don't know. It's a lot further away now.
Unfortunately, Matt's now in Cincinnati. He was originally in Long Island, and he moved away from us, and you need to make a road trip and come back east.
Well, I tell you what, sunset is at 7:40 tonight.
Oh, wow.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
I've got a quick question for you, Paul.
Sure.
With respect to Tarango, is what's holding her back? Is it her size, or is the others just more physically mature at this point?
The other ones, it's a little bit of both. So the other ones are just a little bit more physically mature. You know what I mean? They're not like mentally. She's as mature, or maybe more mature than some of the others, or most of the others, because she knows she's figuring it out, and she's a very competitive type filly, but physically, she's grown a lot. She was definitely on the small side when we got her, and she's just going through typical, growth type issues. Not any kind of soundness or lameness problems or anything like that, but just one of those horses that just you need a little time. Like I I don't know how many hockey guys I got here, but I always make analogies to when I was coaching youth hockey, and you see kids, at the age of 7, 8 years old out there, that some of these kids are so precocious, and you throw them out there on the ice and they can fly up and down, and then there's a couple others out there that they're trying hard, but they can't quite keep up with those guys. But then all of a sudden, a little later in the season, or maybe the next year, the one guy, a couple of those kids that were struggling a little bit, maybe fourth line type kids, all of a sudden they're up on the second line. So, there's a lot of similarities, with the way kids kind of develop and the way horses develop. It's really not hard to see that, and so that's all. It's nothing unusual, nothing there where I haven't been there before with a lot of young horses. Just she's in the program, she's training, but I don't. I usually sit behind her myself a lot, and I just let her keep following. Let her keep following. Don't necessarily ask her to try to go by one, or especially on the very end when they're sprinting that last say 16th or 200 meters of the stretch. Rather than just let her follow right along and keep getting her confidence up, and she just keeps going to get physically stronger. That's all.
Is she gated like Captain Corey himself, or?
It's kind of hard to say there. She's got a really nice gait, you know what I mean, as far as that goes. He was such a big horse, covered the ground so easy. I would say that, Geologic might be more gated the way he is, but Geologic's a decent sized colt, I'm sure. Listen, if Tarango is a little bigger, you're not going to be buying her for 12,000. You're going to be buying her for probably 40,000 or something. But so it's not her gait for her size. Her gait is plenty big enough. It's just that physically her hind end, she needs to develop a little more muscle and just get a little bit bigger, body wise, and then things will, she'll get stronger. Things will come a little easier for her. That's all.
Well, thank you.
You sure thing.
Anyone else? This is your chance. All right, if there's no other questions for Paul, Paul, we want to thank you for coming on a probably a busy Sunday afternoon.
No, not busy at all. Watching a little golf, but it looks like the tournament's over. It looks like the Morikawa guys got a 3-stroke lead. So, but no, everything's good. And I really appreciate the chance to speak to you guys, and I'm happy to do this anytime. It's always good bringing everybody up to speed. If everybody's got questions and things like that, I'm always happy to answer.
Wonderful, and we'll take you up on that offer, and we'll do it again. Once all our horses get rolling, maybe sometime over the summer. And,
sure.
Thanks for answering all our questions. It was very, very interesting, and we appreciate it. And you could certainly sign off. I want to keep everybody else on for a few more minutes and tell them a few things.
Guys, listen, just for me, thanks for all of you. Thanks for being involved. All right. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, guys.
Hey, Paul.
Yep. Everybody stay well.
So, okay, gang, that was great having Paul on. Just want to go over a few things, just a couple more minutes before we close it out. Just a quick reminder that our second auction will begin Friday of next week, ending Sunday. All entries are due tomorrow. So far, we have 2 members that are going to be listing some horses. I'm not sure. We'll double check to see if there's some additional ones that are in there. but I think at the moment we only got 2. So perhaps this will be a good chance for some of you to get in if you aren't already in with us. Go for Glory gear, racing gear. I did place the order on Friday, and I got orders from 3 more people over the weekend. So I told Tony Varuso to hold up the order, and I'll resubmit it tomorrow morning. So if anybody needs gear last minute, I'm wearing it right now, as you can see. Good quality stuff. There we go. The wrong stable, but we'll change that up with Go for Glory. Same logo. It's going to look real good, and hopefully you'll want to jump in and show off the racing gear in the stable. So we got some action early in the week.